You should do that.
25 seconds.
5 seconds.
5? I got 25. Oh, no.
But you got 25. Oh, my gosh. This is a disaster.
Are we live?
Oh, we have 78 people.
We're live. We're live.
Ah!
All right. Are you sure we're live? We're definitely live. Okay. All right. We're going to give
out there can
hello,
hear.
everybody. Hello, number 80 people. Okay. Hello. Welcome to this little round table that we're going to have. We're going to leave it a few minutes, or maybe like a minute, just for people to jump in. So everybody who's watching in chat, say hello, tell us your name, and tell us where you're from, and we'll see how far afield we get.
I think I'm getting a little bit of an echo, you guys, if somebody has their speakers on.
It's me, probably.
Terrible start.
That help?
Matthias from Sweden. Hi, Matthias.
Echo.
Mexico,
Sweden, fantastic. And hey, I've never heard of the country Hey. That's amazing.
Netherlands. We're probably intercontinental. I think we're going to cover all 4 corners of the globe, or at least a couple of them.
Tell me where these 4 corners of the globe are.
Yeah. So you've seen a map, right? I mean, this is
right.
So there's 4 corners, and that projects directly onto the way the Earth is.
Yeah. But you say there's 4 corners of a globe. I think there's 4 corners of the map, but not 4 corners of the globe.
Oh, okay. We're gonna have a falling out.
In fact, when you turn that map and you wrap it around the globe,
fake news.
Don't those 4 corners end up touching?
It's physically impossible.
Okay.
Sail flying up one way, you'll fall off it. That's scientific.
So
it's been proven.
Okay.
I'm getting horrible echo right now. I don't know about you guys.
Mm-mm.
None of us are getting it.
No, it's just you.
No.
Do you have the Kickstarter page open in the background?
Oh, brilliant. That was it.
Have you tried turning it on?
So now we can talk about flat Earth, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Earth has to be flat, or a piece of burden or a piece of balance wouldn't work because the things would fall off.
Exactly.
I retract my ridiculous statement. I need to share this to Facebook, then we'll get going. Hang on a sec.
Yeah, let's all share on the internet. Let's do it.
I did it.
Tell your friends. Okay. Ready to preview. Open.
Christopher, do you go by Chris or?
I use my whole name.
You do? Okay. Yeah. I respect that. I do too.
You also use my whole name?
Pat is something you do to a dog. That's what I said when I was in 5th grade.
Come on, Facebook. Catch up.
All right.
I think we'll have something to sip on while we're talking.
Yes, delicious water.
Yeah.
That's a funny colored water.
It's just different in America.
This Facebook thing isn't working.
That's why I married my wife, because she owned this glass with Batman on it. So.
Patrick, I also own that mug. So does that mean something here?
Yeah, I guess so.
Brother?
Like an episode of Jerry Springer already. Okay, I'm going to leave Facebook because it's not playing. All right, cool. Hi, everybody. So this is going to be just a lovely little chat with some friends about things. Yeah. I've been very lucky enough to meet these 3 lovely gentlemen at various different times and various different places, all at the 4 corners of the globe. So I thought it'd be really cool, really fun, just to get 3 or 4, if you count me, different games makers into the same room and just talk about some kind of wide-arching topics, all to do with games, obviously. So, but before we start, let's go around the room and just say hi and a little bit about maybe the games that people might know you for. So we're all on the same page. So, John, you want to go first?
Sure. Jon Ritter from Layways Games. I worked on Dragoon expansion, and I just kicked off a metal manufacturing company called 11 Metal. So that's what I'm doing these days.
I'm going to type whilst you talk. Christopher, you want to go for it?
Oh, sure. I am Christopher Badell. I am the co-owner of Greater Than Games and the co-creator of a game called Sentinels: The Multiverse. I write stories about superheroes, and well, we've made a bunch of other games as Greater Than Games since then, like lots of them, like dozens. But yeah, Sentinels: The Multiverse is probably what you know me from.
Patrick?
I'm Patrick Leder. I work on a game called Leder and Crystal Caverns, and we're doing good. And been hiring lately, and things are taking off, so it's great.
Nice. Cool.
Tim, I'm going to interrupt here. The stream shows us when people back your Kickstarter. That's super cool. Wise Guys Events just became backer number 2739. Like, cool.
We have to say thank you to everybody.
Yeah, every time.
The first one we did, it was like a concert stream, and it kind of proved quite difficult to keep up. But we'll say thanks to everybody when they back.
For every backer you get, I will eat a golden metal skull.
So I'm going
say it. I mean it.
Cancel my pledge. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'm going to go pledge, cancel it, and reback.
Yeah.
Hang on, I've not backed our own campaign yet. I can go and make this happen. Cool. All right. So
Tim, who are you? Introduce yourself.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think most people here know me from the other stream. So I'm Tim. I am the lead designer for Beast of Balance. So I do all of the 3D design and all the manufacturing, and I also kind of make sure everything's ticking along. So you can shout at me if we run late, which obviously we won't. So first question, nice and easy, or I want to hear, because I'm always interested to kind of find out a bit about an average day for you guys. So if the time zones don't work out for this, because if it's horribly early where you are, like what did you do in the last full day? Very, very briefly, like what was the highlight work-wise of the last full day that you had?
I mean, I can tell you what I did this morning. So it's 1 p.m., but by 9 a.m.
Right?
I'm in Boston, Mass, Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
But right now I'm in Narragansett, Rhode Island on vacation. However, work never stops. So I woke up at 7 a.m. this morning. I drove to Providence, Rhode Island to check out metal manufacturing, picked up some samples, including this massive dragon here, and talked to a finisher, talked to a plater, worked on some designs, and then was back here by 9:30 a.m.
Nice.
So that's not my full day, but that's kind of one thing that I'm sure everyone here can relate to is work never really stops. So it doesn't really matter what you're doing when you're doing it. You often have to just go.
I think I'm increasingly finding that if I don't make sure that I don't work when I'm not supposed to be working, it's definitely a vicious cycle. It's a problem when you're doing something that you kind of enjoy. It never really feels like work, but you always got to stop, especially if you're on holiday. Don't do any more work today, at least.
I don't follow those rules. I just always work. But like it's not advisable. Don't do that thing. But I've kind of crafted a life for myself where this is my life, which is ideal for me. Everybody takes all kinds. My last 3 full days of work, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of this week, have all been vastly different. I've on those days I've done video interviews with people. I did show notes, listening to and writing up show notes for a podcast that I'm on. I answered a ton of emails. I did a bunch of creative writing for games, and I did a bunch of mechanical writing for games. But 80+% of my work involves me sitting or standing at this desk and writing things, whether I'm writing like a story that's going to end up being part of a game or part of the backstory of a game, or writing card mechanics or mechanical interactions of some other sort. And then everything else I do is just kind of making that go.
Sounds like a lot of different things. Let's go. I have another thing that I'd like to follow on for that. So, Patrick, what's your day been like so far? Whereabouts are you?
I'm in my voice cracked. I'm in St. Paul, Minnesota. So we're having a lovely fall day here in the middle of the summer. It's very rainy. So actually, Thursday morning, ironically, is I take off and I just spend the day with my daughter up until about noon, and then I turn back over. So I actually did nothing this morning for the business except answer a couple of questions. So the last 3 days we have been working on. My new developer and Sam Bailey have been working on getting Deep ready for Gen Con, which is the next game we're working on. I myself have been working on getting the Vast add-ons, which will fulfill the rest of my obligation for this current Kickstarter. We're getting those ready to print, so those are probably going to go this week or next week to the printer. So I've been working with the editor and Kyle Wolfel, the developer of Vast, on those. And then I myself, during my spare time during that time, have been getting the Vast 2 prototype ready for Gen Con also. So, which it's ready. It's just, I've been playtesting, so I want to keep working on it. But yeah.
Gen Con's not in
so
right?
I think it's in like 20 minutes, according to Jeff Football. So yeah, we better get going.
Yeah.
So I am as I'm sure you guys will all appreciate, I'm in the midst of Kickstarter ridiculousness, and when you're in the middle of a live Kickstarter, it's a very, very unique period of time and space where everything else stops. Life, as you know it, ceases to exist. And
I'm missing the rush. I want to go back. Really? Yeah, I'm actually starting to Jones for it. Yeah, it's weird.
How long ago was it that you last had one up?
December. I think I'm the oldest of all of us here.
Yeah, I think that's probably enough where I'd start to get the old like rose tinted glasses on, right? But right. I'm running through it right now.
I miss the plateau and dealing with it and freaking out. I miss that so much.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys got the same, but we found this time around as well as last time, Sunday mornings in the different time zones, we'd always get a little flurry of people either dropping their pledge or canceling their pledge. And I think that's just like Sunday morning backer's remorse of waking up, you're hungover, you realize how much you spent last night, and you're going through your phone going like, oh, something's got to give. So we're currently going through that. So it's a very weird time answering lots of people's questions. I mean, the nice thing is you get to talk to loads and loads of different people, which is really nice. Like people who just have genuine questions about the thing you're making, lots of feedback. That's really cool. We're at the stage now where people are jumping into the comment section and kind of like, hey, you should consider this, or like, wouldn't it be cool if this happened? And then other people start to riff off that. So that's really nice to watch. So it's not all bad. It's good.
But you got to be the mean person who goes, hey, we're not doing all of that. Sorry.
Yeah. You got to aim for something. Cool.
I'm not going to give you an empty box. Sorry.
That's it. Nothing else.
Are you getting that question on what?
What's that?
Like, are you getting that question? Will everything fit in a box? In one box?
Every day.
Hey, we're sending out a box.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to. I probably shouldn't say this, but so I actually did a load of research into making a bigger box for us. But the problem is the postage will just kill it. Significantly bigger box.
Well, you're making for the next edition of Beast, you're making the box slightly smaller, right?
That's what, yeah. Like in terms of outer dimensions, it's smaller, but there's more. It's been better designed inside, so there's more space to add things. But unfortunately, it won't fit everything. So, like who knows? But it's an expensive thing to make an empty box because
Will it fit everything if you take all of the inserts out and you just put like the plinth in the corner and then scatter stuff all around it?
For sure. Yeah.
There you go. That's what traditional board gamers do. They open the box.
That's the solution.
All the inserts and they throw the insert away and put all the components back in a pile.
And Tim sheds a single tear when they throw the insert away.
But you know what?
I'm not doing it.
It is a beautiful insert.
Oh, thank you. The funny thing is that on the original version, we had a card divider, which I think if you've got the original one, you probably have. It's just like a square piece of card that was meant to keep the plinth from moving around. And that's disposable. That was designed to be chucked away, but it's really, I always get a kick because we'll see someone post it on Instagram and they've taken it out and they've put it around the plinth when they're playing with it as kind of like an extra layer of protection. So I'm kind of happy that this disposable thing has had an extra life, Yeah.
So Kyle Farron from the chat has the best comment about this. He said, well, you can just put all your Beast of Bounds piece on the shelf.
right?
to display them because they're gorgeous.
Thank
And then
you.
you dust them every day.
That is. That's.
Dust.
Everyone behave that way. Everyone do it. Ready? Go.
I'm gonna go throw out my Monpok stuff and replace them with these events.
Again, don't say it if you don't mean it. We're holding everything here.
Yeah, everything
This is getting recorded. I
like
think.
on the internet, so it has to be true.
It's on the internet. It's going to be there forever. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Stonemeyer, Jamie just released his box. Everyone's doing boxes. Everyone's just making boxes.
Oh, so he's done a box, has he? What's
For Scythe, yeah, he released a legendary box for Scythe.
what's the pricing like on that?
What's that?
It's $15. That's pretty good. But
That's not bad. That's way cheaper than our
That
legendary.
was 25.
it's 25 plus postage or with postage? This is getting a very specific answer to a very specific question I'm having at the moment. Why are people upset about the box?
I don't know.
People are upset. People are upset about the Stegmeyer box. Oh, it's 15 US. Not sure. I thought it was 25 for some reason.
Well,
This is
Oh,
our
it looks like
box.
yes, they do. People get upset about everything, apart from our back.
That's the box for Sentinels.
Yeah, this is.
I mean, we did. Huh?
This is-
Where am I
We
gonna
did
put
15
that?
for our box.
Hold everything ever. It weighs like 30 pounds. It's very tiring to hold this.
Hey, we got a viewer question. What do you? Oh, this isn't fair because I'm not going to Gen Con, so I'm just going to sit this one out. What are you guys looking forward to playing at Gen Con? Or anything.
So like everything that I'm playing at Gen Con, I'm going to be running. So like I'm not playing anything for fun at Gen Con. I'd love to get to actually play some games at Gen Con for fun, but that's not what I do at Gen Con. It's work. It is 100% full-time work. So the thing I'm looking forward to playing at Gen Con is the Sentinel Comics role-playing game because I'm showing that off a bunch. So there you go.
So I noticed this actually, Christopher, when I saw you at the UK Games Expo. You didn't leave the booth for the whole thing. I think
I did. I walked over to your booth and said hi a couple times.
I know, but you didn't. I swear you were just running.
I did. I went to the bathroom twice.
So like you don't get because I always try and even when I'm doing demoing like at South by Southwest, I was the only one there, so I was demoing on my own for what was it, like 3 or 4 days or something. But I still always tried to take an hour just to go and see something else. You don't? Do any of the other you guys do this? Do you always try and like find something?
So that's what.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. That's for me.
Go.
That's what as an exhibitor, we have the advantage of being able to get into the hall before the regular public can. And once the regular public's in there, for me to walk from my booth to like walk around and look at booths, it's super packed. Every convention is really packed. It's some more so than others. And so at Gen Con, I do my walk around and look at stuff before the hall opens. And a lot of times that means there's not a person there to show me the game. I just have to kind of look at the stuff. And I'm not there to buy anything. I'm not because I don't buy games. I definitely buy games, but not at Gen Con. Like my table is full. So I definitely do, like in the morning, I'll do a brisk walkthrough to see where other things are. I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. And then somebody will be like, oh, have you seen anything interesting in the show? I'm like, yeah, I did. I saw this interesting thing. I don't know much about it, but you can go check it out.
Yeah.
But like once the hall starts, no, I've got stuff to do. I'm a full time.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, it's work. It's work. It's fun. I mean, it's fun. I 100% agree with the walkthrough, like the quick lightning round of like, let's go around, see what we can see, and then get the hell out of there. Like, I remember our first few PAX East, and just conventions in general, we were all on our feet for like 12 hours. And at the end of the day, you're like, I'm done. I'm going to go sleep and then hopefully wake up in the morning and keep doing this. So, yeah, I mean.
Yeah. Or you can go to nearby hotels
I get
keep running your games.
Yeah. If you're that's one thing that we realized quickly. When you're starting out, it's like you want to do all the things, but you need to realize that you're a human and you can't do all the things. So you have to plot and plan accordingly.
Nonsense. Plow through, die afterwards. That's the deal.
I'm excited about the climbers. I pre-ordered that. That's going to be distributed at Gen Con, right? Like if you pre-ordered it, you get to pick it up. Am I remembering that correctly? So I'm excited to pick that up.
Which game was that?
The climbers.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the climbers?
I don't really know a ton about the mechanics. I just like how it looks. It's this game that you play with blocks and ladders, and you are trying to get your pawn, I assume, higher than the other players on that stack of blocks. So.
Do you like a dexterity game? That's good.
I just like dexterity games that are pretty, and it's not really a dexterity game in that sense. So not like Beast of Bounds where it can fall over. So yeah.
Okay.
The block stack.
Oh yeah, that is pretty. That is pretty.
I would call it a King of the Hill type game. I definitely didn't just steal that from the comments.
Okay.
Agreed.
Interesting. All right. Well, I'll check that one out. Okay.
I've been wanting it for a long time because it was like out of print for a while. So I'm excited it's coming back in.
So I have a question. I have a few questions here. We won't get through them all, but so something I wanted to talk to you guys about is
this an intervention?
Mechanics. This is the narrative thing. So for you guys, what comes first? Is it theme or is it mechanics? Is it important that mechanics reinforce the narrative and the theme, or can the two be separate? Because I think, you know, I've spoken to certainly Christopher. I know. I'm guessing you're going to have a bias towards the narrative, but I'm interested to know, when you are starting out with your teams, when you have a new idea or something, does the narrative predate the mechanics, or do you start with the mechanics coming first? Because the reason I ask this is because for us, which is probably quite different, we generally start with a piece of technology or an interesting interaction method, and then we build from there. So I think that might be quite unique for other game makers, but I'm interested. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that.
I definitely do, surprisingly. So for me, for the majority of the time, yes, the theme is the first thing that I say. I want to write a game about X. I want a game in which I feel like I am this. I want a game in which I am replicating this real world thing or this fictional world thing or whatever. But that is the start point for me. Like, I want to write a game about X. Is generally a thing that happens to me more than I want to make a game in which I am physically doing Y. Those things are both important, and you said, you know, it's important that the theme relates to the mechanics or vice versa or whatever. And for me, it's both. That the theme absolutely needs to connect to the mechanics and needs to reinforce the mechanics, but at the same time, the mechanics have to uphold the theme, and the things that you are physically doing needs to feel in some way related to the thing that you are imaginarily doing over the course of the game.
Yeah.
And so those two things for me shouldn't be separated. They shouldn't be easily taken apart from each other. If you're like, oh, this game seems really good, but if you just completely reskin it to be about frogs, then it would be better. It's like, that shouldn't be possible. That should be rather very difficult to do.
Yeah.
Because it like, you can be like, okay, well, I'm going to take this superhero themed game and reskin it to be a game about like movie action heroes. Okay, well, okay, those are, you know, that's a little bit more close in line, but that's the thematics and mechanics need to connect, and so that's always the first point for me. But in general, I go, okay, I want to write a game about X, so I want to know about what my thematics are, and then I immediately go to how mechanically do I support that. And there's a lot of games that have been left on the cutting room floor for me that I was like, oh, I really want to write a game about this story. Can I come up with mechanics that make that story work as a game?
Yeah.
Not in a way that I'm satisfied with. Okay, fine. Screw it. Moving on. Because if the mechanics don't support those thematics, that's not a game that I'm gonna put out, or at least that I need to completely go back to the drawing board for.
Because that's something that I really came away from. I think we talked about this actually. It was Spirit Island. Playing that at UK Games Expo, I definitely came away like a lot more than I have of recent years from playing that, thinking, all right, every single thing that I'm doing is making me feel like I'm a god that is progressively growing in power. So you know, every single player action that you could take helped to reinforce that, and that really stuck with me. And that's something that we're trying to kind of run with the stuff that we're doing. What about you guys, John and Patrick?
Go ahead, John.
Yes.
I mean, I'll take a little bit different spin on this. I mean, I know that we started off with Dragoon with the idea of just the simple phrase of "be the dragon," and we wanted the mechanics to enforce that. So you wanted to be powerful, you wanted to have all of that wrapped together. But then we made sure that we connected both theme, mechanics, art, and materials all together. That's kind of why we went with metal. We went with real gold because we're insane. And it just all kind of, we wanted everything to kind of line up and create the best experience for the gamer possible. So it it felt best. And when we're moving forward, we're doing the same thing. Like we have a new game coming out that we haven't really talked about yet, but that it's coming out probably in like November. That we're trying to line up everything again with theme, mechanics, art, and materials to kind of all be synergistic for a nice cocky term.
It's interesting you mentioned materials actually. Like, yeah, because I did feel so with Dragoon with the metal pieces, but also with the cloth playmat, they really go together to kind of help with the theme like we're talking about. So, what can I ask? What materials you were considering for the next game, or is that super secret? Is it?
No, it's not super. I mean, obviously, we're probably.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, because people look at it and they're like, "Oh, you guys, you do metal stuff." It's like if we come out with something that's not metal, people are gonna look at us and be like, "What the hell, man?" Like,
I mean, if you make it out of real human bone.
Now we're talking.
Whoa. It was illegal to sell.
There's an interesting point there with the idea of heirloom.
Why do you think it's in Rhode Island?
I'm talking over you, sorry.
I got a bone guy. Don't worry, I got a bone guy.
That's not something on air, you know. Yeah. So physical, physical materials helping to create like a bond. We're tangible creatures. We like things that we can touch and that have quality, feel good in our hands, right? And there's a really kind of tried and tested like school of design thought from industrial design. So I'm an industrial designer by background, so a lot of this relates back to the idea of making things that people want to hold on to just because they're nice heirloom quality things, and that could be through material, but also through shape and like quality of finish. So I really like it when I see little games that use like wildly impractical materials. I always get a kick out of games that use timber, because timber is like the killer for any kind of cost to manufacture. But it's great because instantly there's something there's quality in timber. You know, like oh damn it, what's the name of the stacking game? Junk art, right? Junk art. So junk art's full of the most amazing shapes, and they're all painted. And like once you've made a game, you appreciate the work that goes into every little facet of every other person's game. And I always tell people, if you're about to diss a game that you don't like, just take a second to look at it objectively, because every single thing you see there is hours of someone's life and is trial and error and quite literally blood. And especially if you're using kind of crazy materials, because the kind of thing you can always easily fall back to is just, all right, let's just make it out of whatever's cheapest, right? So I have a lot of time for people who go out of their way to introduce different crazy materials, whether it's plastic or metal or, you know, timber or anything. Anyway, I'm monologuing.
No, it's you're making interesting points, so it's good.
Oh, here's a good question. If cost wasn't an option, what material would you love to use? Ooh. Okay. I got to think about this one.
I like wood.
Yeah,
I'm boring.
Tim, you mentioned Spirit Island earlier, which is a game that we just put out, and I think we kind of got like our best case scenario materials for that, because like the board is a game board. Like it'd be cool to make the board out of wood, so like sure, there's that, and make all the different land types, different wood inlays and stuff. But I love that the player pieces and the natural world pieces are all wood in that game, and then the invader pieces are all plastic in that game. And so you pick up the plastic piece and you're like, ew, these are the bad guys, and then you pick up the wood piece, you're like, but these are the good guys. Like that, I love that kind of thing in games where not just the thematics and the mechanics matching up, but also the components matching up in the same way.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I would want to if cost was an option, I'd love an edition of Spirit Island that was like 100% all like really handcrafted, fancy inlay stuff.
Nice.
I would be. I mean, you could just say like I would just pay Wormwood to make the entire game, and I would make the metal inlays, and we would sync up and make everything like perfectly fit inside of each other. It would be expensive as all hell, but it would be pretty.
Well, my birthday just happened. You guys missed it, so.
This is your birthday present.
Yeah, just send me your address.
I think I'd like to make one that. Okay, so hear me out. It's a legacy game, but all the pieces degrade every time you play it. So you have a piece that's just made out of coal, and every time you use it, it just rubs off on your hands, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller until eventually it's just this little nugget, like a hotel soap. And then once it's gone, you know that's it. It's gone. You drop it on the
soap. Make it out of soap. Make it out of soap, and you have to play the game in the shower.
You make a bath game with soap pieces.
Put it on Kickstarter. You'll make a fortune. Exclusive. Cool.
Oh yeah, Gil Hova in the chat says ice cubes.
Ice cubes.
Nice.
How cool would that be? Like, so
you make a tray. This is easy. You make a plastic tray that has unique shapes in it. You freeze your water. You play your game, and then you have to like do all your stuff with your pieces before they melt.
Definitely.
Somebody make this game. Do it now.
But you have to freeze it at the right. Isn't there what is it? If you're freezing something at a certain, is it temperature, or you can't agitate it or something so it's clear? How do you freeze?
I don't know how to do it. You want to boil the water first. That makes a big difference. Gets the impurities out of the water.
Yeah.
Chocolate.
Yep.
Hey, actually, I've totally forgotten. I think that. Hang on a sec. There's you guys might have seen it. There was a game recently where I think you baked all of the game pieces.
Oh, cool.
I'm trying to find it. I'll post the.
Game.
Edible games. Here we go. So Jen Sandercock. She's actually working with us on a. I
like this stealthy plug you do. Where you're like, I'm going to plug this person I work with, but I'm going to do it in a real like, oh, what? Who's that? Wow.
Gosh, no. Yeah, this is really good. It's the Order of the Oven Glove. Everybody have a look at that when you're looking at it. Cool. So another thing that I want to talk to you about, because this is something that we historically struggle with, and that's because we, as a group of people, argue about every single design discussion that we can have. So something we find really, really difficult is the concept of killing your darlings. And I know that you guys have a different phrase for that, which I still find quite disturbing. What you don't call it killing your darlings, you call it killing your babies. Which is not.
You gotta kill your babies, man. You gotta kill as many babies as
you're not killing at least 20 babies a day. You're not a real game designer.
Yeah, sure.
Exactly. Real game designers kill babies.
That's the cool quote in this that's going up on YouTube. So, like, when you're killing your babies, how do you know when it's time? How do you know when something is too complicated? So, for anyone who's a little bit lost, so killing your darlings or your babies is basically when you get to the point where you've put layers of complexity in that really only tickle your own bones. They don't translate to the experience that people who are playing the game that aren't you might have. So they're extra layers of complexity that you really like, but other people they don't get them. They also they make the kind of cognitive load. So when you first try and, I mean, you guys would all have experienced this when you pick up a complicated game and you've got a book that's like this thick you have to wade through, and you get this many pages in, you're like, all right, fuck it, let's just try and wheedle our way through. There's a lot of dense stuff to get through. So the idea of stopping and saying, all right, how much of this can we cut out and still keep the essence of what we're doing? So do you have producers that do that for you, or is this something that you say, okay, at this point, we're going to have to stop and start taking things out, or you just let it fly and just live with what you've got? Like, how do you all deal with that?
I think you have to kill your own babies. I mean, someone else can tell you this baby needs to die, but ultimately, if you don't kill it, then you're just always going to be like, well, this went to print with this decision, but I didn't like it. I think you have to come to a point where you're like, no, like we're intentionally doing this because it's what's best for it. And frequently, the babies are the things that the game was built on. Are the bones that you're like, okay, when I first started putting this game together, here's the mechanics that I used to prop this thing up. And then as we played it more and more, like things got smooth, and then like new edges came out and things got smooth, and new edges came out and things got smooth. And then there's like, oh, wait a minute, now things are pretty much self-supporting, and this initial like internal structure that was used to build the game isn't necessary anymore. And so frequently there's lots of times where I'm working on a game where I'm like, okay, hold on, there's this mechanic that's been part of the game from the beginning. Let's play a half a game, let's play a full game depending on the length of the game without that there at all. Like, what if we just remove that? And then it raises a bunch of questions like, right, but how do you resolve this? How do you resolve that? But like, try removing elements of your game and see how it plays. And sometimes those things are like, oh yeah, this should just be, this felt like it was essential to the game, but it should be an expansion or something, or maybe like an alternate rule set, or nothing at all. But
what you're doing, which is what you need to do, is being selfless and kind of separating your ego from the game design process, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're not sitting there going, "Hey, I made this; it has to stay." You're kind of stepping back, looking at it objectively, and going, "What as for the greater whole, for the greater good, what works, what doesn't work."
So, and the thing that we have is. So our game is, we're not just making our game for us, we're making it for different age groups. We're making it, so we have to make something that will equally appeal to like a 6 or 7 year olds, all the way up to us as game players ourselves. So sometimes it's really difficult because you're killing darlings that maybe aren't just for you, they're for other people. Yeah. Patrick, what do you think on this?
Well, I designed Vast, so I have way too many mechanics anyway. But actually, I mean, that's a pretty serious problem because if any role got complicated, it would just cause a lot of disruption. Yeah, so this is a really important process for us, and I would say around 40, 50, 60%. I always plan to have a meeting about the game where we sit down and point at every component and say, do we need this? Do we need this? Do we need this? You know, every rule. Like by paragraph, we point at the board, we point at each deck of cards and say, what if we didn't have this? How would this game work without it? And we work through that process because if you've played Vast, you might think it's overly complicated, but I assure you, at one point it was really overly complicated. We had to trim every roll down to the point that you could understand what the other rolls were doing while they're sitting at the table. After a few games, I think it's a lot to ask for someone to get at the first game, but. Yeah, so that was a big deal for us, and it kind of circles back to I didn't get to answer the narrative question, so I'm going to narrative versus mechanical. I do start out with a very narrative, and with Vast I started out with the game when I started developing it. We do start out with a very I do have a concept of how I want the game to flow in my head when I start. And I will design a game up to a certain point and start working on that, and start playing that. And I am perfectly willing to change the game mid-game and mid-turn, as long as we eventually test what the result of that is. So that also can help trim a lot. Like we'll look at a mechanic and say, this is just dead right now. We need to get rid of this and work on that. So.
And do you always... Because there's a point we frequently have where it comes down to personal opinions, as a lot of these things do. So you'll have one person saying, oh, this is integral, and the other one saying, no, it's not, cut it. And then frequently with us, we just kind of go,
right.
One person.
So, yeah, that's because you're arguing about it instead of just playing the game.
Yeah, no, yeah, true, yeah.
If you have a thing, you're like, the game doesn't work without this. You're like, yes, it does. Great, just play the game without it.
Sure.
And the person who thinks that it's integral will be like, see, it's not working. And that's their job, is to do that. And everyone else will be like, no, it's working. Or be like, oh, nope, you've convinced me. It definitely isn't working. And just test it. And then the other thing is if you're like, no, we've played it both ways and it works both ways, great. Put it in front of people who have never played the game.
Mm-hmm. Player testing.
Yeah, because ultimately you're building for other people. You're not building
for
yourself.
I cannot stress testing enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do you guys manage play testing? So you're like in the early stages of a game. Just kind of describe the setup that you would do for a playtest, and how you record the outcomes. That's always very interesting too.
So early on, all of our playtesting is internal. There's 10 people now full time at Greater Than Games, and so we can do a lot of game playing here in the office. So that is helpful. But then when we start moving out to other playtesters, we then have like. All of the people here have other gaming groups that we play games with, and we'll take it to them. And those are the next people that are like, these are people that know us, and these are people that are used to like the way that we do things. But the first like really dedicated playtesting we do is we have a core of about 100 playtesters on our forum. That is a closed group that we very rarely allow new playtesters into. And with those people, it's fantastic because we say, great, here is like a print and play PDF of the game, and here's a PDF of the rules, and play it. Yeah. And then it's nerve-wracking for me because I want to be like, let me tell you how everything works. Maybe I'll record a YouTube video of me saying all the rules. No. I'm giving you a rule PDF and a print and play thing. Can you figure it out? And the questions that come out of that are super helpful. The people posting on the forum being like, wait a minute, does this work this way? And then before I even get a chance to answer, somebody else who is another playtester will reply, like, well, I read it and I think it works this way. And the conversation they had is really useful to me. I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay, all right, okay, yeah, very good. And so that having this disconnect of like we're able to communicate through an internet forum where people are saying the things they want to say and they like don't have instantaneous responses from me or from other designers is really useful because seeing them kind of puzzle it out is like, okay, that's how people are interpreting this. So either I need to say, yeah, that's correct, or I need to completely rewrite it if it's wrong, you know. And so that's kind of how we do the bulk of our playtesting before we start going to like conventions and playing it in front of strangers at shows and things.
And do you, when it comes to recording feedback, so you mentioned the forum, so that's a great way of just watching people talking about the games. But when you're, let's say you're doing physical meat space playtesting, do you have any way of recording what you see, or is it all just going in your head and then you just relay it back and feed it in? I was going to see if I can grab it over there, but I've got my bag over there that I take to every show, and in my bag I have a notebook, and in that notebook is pages and pages and pages of the date, the names of players, and just like this is what this person said, this is what this person said, and there's no judgment calls in there on me. There's not somebody said do this, but and then parentheses actually do this to fix it. Nope, this is just me writing down everything everybody said in shorthand that is really difficult to read because my handwriting is terrible, and then later I'll read back through it and be like, okay, cool. So these are just reminding me of the things because I have a pretty solid memory for that sort of stuff, but I want something to refresh my memory, especially if I'm going to do like 4 play tests in a day or something. Yeah, sure.
So,
yeah, I know that I'm not the designer at Layways Games, but I've seen what our 2 designers do. They're brothers, so they kind of play off like designer-developer roles back and forth. And it really starts off very numerical initially, where you're keeping track of scores, you're comparing and contrasting. Is this person running away with it? Is that person running away with it? And then from there, I mean, you guys tell me if I'm wrong here, but it's kind of like a gut feeling. Like once you hash out the numbers and the numbers are making sense, then it's kind of like, well, is the game fun? I mean, if you're not having a good time and it's balanced in numbers, who the hell cares?
The feel of the game is far more important than any other part of the game, and this is a thing that a lot of people will argue with me about, and that's fine. But for me, like when you're playing a game, how it makes you feel is like the reason to play a game. You play games to feel something, to feel good, to feel excited, to feel a level of suspense or terror or something. But like you play games to change something in your environment. And if a game doesn't make you feel anything, if you play a game like, wow, that definitely mechanically worked, but I felt nothing. Why did you do that? Like
that was a game for sure. Yeah, you don't really get to the end and be like, yes, there were scores, and that was a game.
Yeah, and that is a thing that I have had with a lot of the games that I've designed, where I designed a game like, hey, let's play this game. We all play the game. We're like, yeah, that definitely worked. Like, did anybody like enjoy it? They enjoyed the process of learning it and stuff, but the playing of the game, was that fun at all? They're like, well, it was.
Yeah, you want to have it build. Like I know one game that I absolutely love is Secret Hitler because it builds. Like when you get to the end, it's going like this. You're not sitting there on a dead heart track meter and nothing's happening. Like as the game goes on, it's building, and that it's so rewarding when you finish a game. Almost every single time.
I'm pretty lackadaisical about my testing approach, which is bad to admit in public.
Yeah,
but when I took over Vast from David, David blessed me with a large community, so there was already people printing and playing the game that I could lean on a lot to work on the game with me. And I did take a couple months away from them and then come back with, here's the design as we developed it. So that helped. I have 2 groups at home that I can cannibalize to turn into playtesting groups, so I do a lot of work with. I'm probably less responsive to feedback than most other designers. I don't know for sure though, because I haven't really observed the other process enough. I mostly look at their reaction and then decide, so you, like that feeling. Yeah, that's what I'm watching for, and I take notes about that and work on that. But then, at some point, we put out print and play editions of the game, and a lot of people were playing Vast before it was released because of that, which was great. So I got a lot of good feedback that way. Tabletop Simulator, the person who does my coding for Tabletop Simulator is in that lobby right now, and she's able to very quickly build prototypes for us, which is great for me because then I can play alone without having to set up the game. Like I just save the setup state and jump in and play the game if I want to test something quickly. I can do that very quickly, and plus then I can play online. And I've actually snuck into games online where I haven't told anybody I'm the developer.
Shadow mode.
Played through a game of Vast without anybody knowing, and just wrote down like, these are the like what are people stumbling on and what questions are people having, and then I'm able to I can make adjustments to that later. So which is great. Nobody find out what my name is on Steam. So and then just taking
that I liked was that like listening to what people say, but not necessarily making changes based on that. And I think that's what a lot of playtesting is.
No, of course.
The feedback that people will give you feedback in two parts, and one part is very useful and one part is rarely useful. The very useful part is, oh, we ran into this problem, or I felt this when I was playing it, or I didn't like this, or I did like this. You get a lot of I didn't like this one element, and that's super, super useful. I love that. And then that's almost always followed up by, you should do this instead, and that's rarely useful.
Yeah.
And not that people aren't smart. It's not that people don't have good ideas, but a lot of people don't have the same internal vision or whatever for the game. And so a lot of the feedback that I get, especially from my own playtesters on the forum, a lot of the playtest feedback is like, oh, this doesn't work, do this instead. And I'm like, this doesn't work, very useful, do this instead. Yeah. Like I'll read it, but I'm going to come up with a solution to the problem that fits the like that is consistent with the internal design of the game and everything.
And like Chris and Pat, I think this is where you guys, I mean, I'm not a designer. Tim, I don't know if you do design work as far as like gameplay and stuff, but I couldn't deal with this, and I'm sure you guys can, when someone says, we want all the abilities, and then you have to sit there and go, well, no, you shouldn't have all the abilities, and here's why. And eventually, because everyone wants to be all-powerful, but then when they're all-powerful, it's boring as hell.
Right.
So you guys are the gatekeepers of like, yeah, you have enough power to feel good, but not too much to feel
so a thing that I have stopped doing with my playtesters is explaining to them, no, you can't have all abilities, and here's why. They are both equal parts, I feel like, equal parts frustrated with me and understanding of why I do it, where they will be like, hey, here's all the feedback, here's all the things we think about the thing. And then rather than coming in and responding to the feedback, I come in and I unsticky the post where I've given them version 2.1 of the game, and I put up a new post. Here's 2.2 of the game. And no, I'm not responding individually to all your pieces of feedback. Know that I read it all. Yep. My response is, here's a new version. And like that's what it is.
I have a question for Tim, because I think with most games, most people kind of take the path of like internal play testing, maybe with like industry folks, and then kind of guided play testing, and then blind play testing, and maybe guide them blind, go back and forth. Tim, with Beasts of Balance, how do you guys play test a dexterity game? Because I don't know how. I have an asymmetric dexterity game. I basically can't play test because of different athletic ability. I don't know if the game is unbalanced because the player is not engaging correctly with the game, or if because of the roles in the game, and it's impossible to play test. I gave up. So anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, it's interesting.
What if you trade your players? Or if you have somebody who's just like straight up athletically better at things or whatever, and then someone else who's worse at it, and then you have them both play the game 4 times as each different side.
Sure. Yeah, I could do that. I would have to get a much more dedicated group. I've also just swapped. Like I play every position, and you know that's like gets boring really fast. But I ended up turning it into a tabletop game that we're going to be working on next year anyway. So it's fine. Like I won't suffer for the loss. But that's why I just removed the athletic component from an unbalanced game basically. So
you use and recycle. You know, it'll come something down the line. But to answer your question, John, so we have, depending on what we're testing, so we focus quite a lot on like first-time user experience of our game, and that could be because we have the digital side as well. A lot of it is just making sure that it's kind of coherent, because we don't ship with a rule book at all. All of our explanation and exposition is done through tutorials in the in-game world. So we spend a lot of time at one side with first-time players, and we're not expecting them to complete full stacks or get high scores. We're just watching them and how they approach the game as new players, because that's really important. That can kill a video game for sure. And I know plenty of more what's the word, casual tabletop players who will stop playing a game just because they can't get past the rules, you know. So for us, it's really important, especially with our kind of cross-generational appeal thing that we're going for. It's really important that we make that onboarding process really straightforward. So when we playtest that, we'll just put out a call and say, all right, you know, come to our studio. We'll take like 10, 15 people. We'll buy you pizza, and we're just going to sit and watch you play. And if people mess it up, then they mess it up. But they kind of figure it out as they go. It's kind of similar to what Crystal was talking about. But then afterwards, we would historically invite back players who are part of our kind of fan base, and we'll do the same thing. So they know the ground rules. That's actually been really important for what we're doing now on the Kickstarter with the different game mode, because something that we really wanted to make sure we don't mess up is the fact that the rules differ in some ways between the two game modes, but we didn't want to have every single piece have a different function between one and the other, because you're just doubling the amount of stuff that people have to remember. So trying to figure out the sweet spot between, okay, we want you to come at this with some degree of knowledge, of foresight to what's going to happen, but we want you to be surprised. We want you to learn stuff. So that the only way you can do that is by inviting people down, again, giving them like the very kind of baseline explanation of what's about to happen, and then letting them unpick it as they go. And the really exciting thing now for us is because we have like players out in the wild who have the game, we can start pushing little nuggets of beta gameplay that we can push through updates, through software updates. So the aim for us eventually is to say every time that you turn on the game, there's something slightly different for you to try, or we've tweaked things and we've changed things, like a kind of typical video game would. So we can get feedback that way really quickly, but we can only start to do that now because we've got players out in the wild. So slightly different.
I mean, that's basically your version of like a print and play, because you can't really do. So your version of a print and play is like, you know, go into the beta mode.
Until Tabletop Simulator introduces a 3D physics system, we're going to have to keep doing it in real life, I think. I'm hoping they do eventually, you know, but we'll see. Cool. So moving swiftly.
I'm really excited that you are doing that with the game. That I like when people are able to take the pieces from a game and play it in a different way. That's like that transformative effect is really exciting to me. And that was part of like why I enjoyed working on Bast, was the 2, 3, and 4 player games are very different from each other, and I like how that your transformation is even more drastic, making it player versus player.
Yeah.
So
giving people more bang for their buck,
you know,
man.
I mean, that was part of it. We wanted to do that right from the start, just because it's one of the important things. I'm going to talk about technology a bit later, but technology was one of the cornerstones. The idea of like cross-generational play I've mentioned before, that was really integral for us. And then the other thing was being able to give people a game that changes. You know, not in like a kind of...
Right?
Say again?
Junk art too, right? With all the different cities, it's not just about stacking. It's fulfilling the rules of that round. So.
Yeah. And then so I really like what they did with junk art with what's it called? Where you can use parts from the other game they made. What is it?
Flick 'em up.
Yes, exactly. So that was beautiful. That was totally. They didn't have to do that, but the fact they did it, I had a lot of respect for that, because that's extra work. But then, you know, you get to use different parts from different games together. Everyone should do that. Yeah, cool. All right, let me pick another question. So, okay, let's do this one. Let's get serious for a minute. Let's talk about stress, because this is something, you know. We're just going to take a minute.
You realize that 3/4 of us are fixing to go to Gen Con here pretty soon.
Yeah, and the other quarter is in the middle of a Kickstarter, at the tail end of a Kickstarter. So let's not have that competition right now. Like,
listen, man, my stress is higher than yours. Leave me alone.
I'm not. I don't even need these. These are just to hide what's behind them. No, I mean, it's important, and it's something that creative people don't really talk about too much. And it's just the way that you. So, Christopher, you mentioned before that, you know, when you really love the thing you do, it it's not a 9 to 5. You live and breathe it. You can't leave it at home. It's just always going on in here. And the temptation is to put aside everything else and just focus on the thing that you love, because why wouldn't you do that? But then it's a slippery slope, and it can sometimes become unhealthy. So I'm interested. I mean, like for me, I found out the hard way that I need to stop every now and again, and I need to make time to not do this thing. Otherwise, it's gonna kill me, and it will. I have, my body will just shut down after a while. And I've learned that from happening enough times to start to recognize the symptoms. Like, do you guys? Does it concern you at all, or do you just power through it, or do you have any like coping mechanisms, or like how do you deal with stress when things get stressful?
So a guy that Tim you might have heard of named Winston Churchill once said, well, all of us people in America know about him. Once said that a change is as good as a rest, and I don't know if that's the case for everyone, but that is I have that quote right there in my back pocket, because that is a mantra for me, in that when I am getting bogged down something, I try to completely change gears. Not just like, oh, I'm working on one game. Well, it's kind of getting stuck for me. I'm going to work on another game. That's actually bad for me. I like to focus on like a game at a time and put a giant chunk of time into one creative endeavor. But if I am like stuck creatively or in whatever thing I have to work on, then I'll go back into our warehouse and like pack boxes. And every so often was like, why are you spending your time packing boxes? You should be focusing on making games. I'm like, if I keep focusing on making games and don't take some time to do a different physical mental activity, I will be hitting this wall all the time. Whereas I go pack boxes for an afternoon and then I come back and the wall seems to have gone away on its own. And so for me, yeah, right.
In the warehouse, you're still making games. It's just you're not doing it.
It's going in the background, and it needs some background processing time. And so for me, like, one of the things that I really like about being part of like my own game company is that there are infinite jobs to do, and we all, even those of us that are most focused, we all still wear lots of hats. And so being able to go, okay, hold on, this thing that I'm trying to do just isn't happening, so I'm going to do something else. Now, that doesn't speak to complete burnout, which is the other thing, where it's like, okay, I'm doing all the things, and I'm doing too many things, and I can't do anything. Yeah. And like, just power through.
That's not helpful.
Nope, not helpful at all.
Have you heard of the term manufactured emergency? Have you heard that before?
No.
Manufactured emergency. It's a term that I came across when I was working in architecture ages ago. But the essence is, no matter how quickly you do this thing, there's always another thing. And no matter how much you do this thing, there's always another thing that needs to be done. And it's a constant cycle. And it's only if you like can manage to break that you can find those little moments to recoup. But this idea, there's always something else, always something else. It can run away with you if you're not aware of it. And I'm talking from someone who does not do this. So, I'm basically, help me.
Right. Well, this is just a call for us. This is a cry for help from us. We're saying, those of you listening out there, please stop.
It's just, so it's an intervention. I manufactured this whole thing just as a cry for help. Yeah.
So I do.
I mean, I personally.
Yeah. So I do a lot. I do some guided meditation and exercise. Like I work from home right now. I'm moving into an office currently. And the people who live near me must think I'm crazy because I walk up and down the block 4 or 5 times a day just to clear my head and get away for a little bit. And like Christopher said, being able to just like, sometimes I have to spend 20 hours a week just doing business stuff anyway. So the design monkey is still in the back of my head working while I'm designing. So, and I do sometimes just, it's time to play a video game for an hour or whatever, just to, and I'm still designing when I'm playing a video game. Like I'll stop and then all of a sudden everything comes out when I'm done playing. So it's just about kind of dividing your time. And obviously, since my family can hear me, spending time with my family is important too.
Yeah, for sure. John, you got any coping mechanisms?
I mean, I personally, I do much like Chris. I mean, Chris, you have a different situation because you're doing like greater than games things, and you just stack those on top of each other. I do Laywaste Games things, which is basically not game design and not art. So everything else I take on for the most part. We're kind of trying to spread things out a little bit more now, but for the most part, everything else kind of lays on my shoulders in one way or another. But I've kind of picked up doing other things to kind of break that up. So I do metal manufacturing now for other companies. I do consulting for other Kickstarter projects. So just having that variety is super helpful because otherwise I would go insane if I was just dealing with little metal dragons 24/7. But also to Patrick's point, like physically getting up and moving around or just doing something different. Like I'll stop in the middle of the day and just play Overwatch for like 2-3 hours because I'm stressed out. And it helps because then once I'm done and I have a little bit of coffee in me, then I'm going at a faster pace after that.
Sure.
So video games help the tabletop process, I think, at least for me.
Honorim. The solo game.
Cool. That was a good one. That's an important one, and I think it's something that more people should talk about. Just general, like mental health when you're doing creative jobs, because it tends to be left out, and it's an important thing to surface.
Cats. I think cats are helpful.
Best. Oh, we're onto the cat segment. How many cats do you have, Christopher, now?
I have the most cats.
You do.
I currently have 6 cats. Step up off of my cats.
Oh,
Like,
you have 6? Jeez, I have 2. I thought 3 was gonna make me a crazy person. But
well, so
my girlfriend and I have 2.
5 of those 6 cats aren't our cats. We do fostering. My wife and I do fostering for little tiny adorable kittens before they can be adopted.
Awesome.
Because before they can be adopted, they need to be, they need to like be able to use a litter box and stuff like that, and they have to get fixed. And so by the time somebody adopts the cat, it has been fixed and it's got microchip and all that other stuff. And in the weeks of time, oh look at them! In the weeks of time leading up to that, we tend to keep them for 2 to 3 months. Oh, good. Somebody,
awesome.
Dylan there posted the link, so I didn't have to go find it myself. Yep, there we go. And that's that was about the Beast of Balance game where I stacked my 4 kitties. Oh, look at him. The head's got.
It's Chuck. Cats are very important. I think they're a good stress relief. They should come prescribed on various different national health systems, which unfortunately you don't have. So let's not.
They have stresses of their own as well, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Carl, it's Junkrat for sure. That's my main. So Junkrat, Overwatch all day.
I don't play that game, so I can't.
Just make up an name.
You're mental for not playing it. It's basically a perfect game. You should play it.
I don't have the reaction time to those anymore mainly because the only times I play video games now is when it's like midnight and I've been at work for 50 hours and all I can do is just sit and look. I just want to look at a gently moving landscape, and that's it. So I don't have the mental capacity to,
When we were getting ready to sit fast, I played a lot of Virtual Pool. It's like, as for all the complicated games I've ever played, I was like, I'm just gonna knock balls in holes and just relax right now. Yeah. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
It looks like we have a question in the questions Q&A
section.
Interesting.
Where's that?
Audience.
There it is.
Ooh. In order to be successful, especially for lesser-known designers in a crowded market, should their game include an explicit hook, aka differentiator? And does a good hook also aid design focus and hitting goals? Good question, Carl.
I mean,
I know with Dragoon, our hook was metal, and I think it helped because I think it helped attract people that didn't know of us before. But a hook helps, but building an audience before a Kickstarter, I think, is massively helpful. Whereas most people kind of create a game, they play it with themselves and their family, and they go, oh, the game's ready, let's play it, or let's launch it on Kickstarter. And you should really be like going to conventions for a fair period of time, building a mailing list, building a fan base. And when you get those like 200, 300, 400 people on your mailing list, maybe it's only 100, but they're passionate people and you're confident that they're going to back you. That's kind of when you want to launch, when you're confident that you're going to get backing, and those people will help be champions of your project and spread forward. So I wouldn't focus as much on a hook as more as like just building.
Yeah, make sure you're getting hands on it. There are 500 plus games on Kickstarter right now simultaneously. You can't if you don't have people that are looking for your game, it is highly unlikely that they will find it. You have to have people that are already aware of your game, and then it'll do well. For whatever reason, game Kickstarter, or Kickstarter in general, is like the movie industry in that the opening weekend matters for some reason. Why? Don't ask questions. And the first 48 hours of a Kickstarter is extremely crucial. You need to have a big explosive start, because then people in general will feel like, oh, this Kickstarter is a real Kickstarter. It's doing something real and important, and you can tell that it had a big launch, and that's important. Why is a big launch important? Because Kickstarter reasons.
We've been doing this for a while, and we don't even know what their magic sort is. We'll never know. No one will ever tell us what the magic.
It's not even the way that Kickstarter internally treats it. It's the way the perception of the outside world of like, oh, a successful Kickstarter is worth backing, whereas a Kickstarter that's kind of struggling along is not worth backing, and people like to back a winning horse. And so you want to your horse is a winning horse, which means that you don't take put it on a Kickstarter, you take a horse that is well known, that has already built an audience, which means it used to be that Kickstarter was a place you could go to launch a new thing, whereas now Kickstarter is a place to go to where once you've already built up that initial 100 to 400 person audience of people that already are aware and already are excited to see that product go live.
Even for like well-known, like Greater Than Games is an established company, and I think you guys benefit drastically by getting a fan base for said game. Like, you already have a following for Greater Than Games, but you want to get a following for said game before you launch it. Not oh yeah, we have a mailing list for Greater Than Games. We're confident that those people are going to back it. It's like no. You want to get your game on.
Like for any game that Greater Than Games launches on Kickstarter is immediately seen by between 1 and 10,000 people just because it's a Greater Than Game game, and that is not enough. Not in terms of numbers, it's not enough in terms of attention. If we're like, hey, here's this new game that you've never heard of, what the 1 to 10,000 people that are definitely paying attention to the things that Greater Than Games does, here's this new game, but you've never heard of it, it's not nearly as good as if I spent a year or 6 months in advance going, hey, here's this game, we're gonna launch it on Kickstarter at this future date, and here's all the things that are about it. You're already excited about it by the time we put it on Kickstarter. Otherwise, it's not gonna work.
All right.
We can do a whole different thing on Kickstarter.
Yeah, I think my advice
on the first day. That's all. And basically the first day is for your audience, and then the rest of it's selling to the other people. So I think we missed with the first Vast campaign. We hit like 26 hours, but whatever, it worked out. So.
I think I don't know if you can hear me because my audio's gone quite choppy, but I'm just going to add that. My advice to you, Carl, would be to make a game that is with many different moving parts, using as many different manufacturing techniques as possible, hopefully including electronics, then try to ship it to all the different countries in the world in a ridiculously short time frame. That would be the way that I would approach standing out on Kickstarter.
Yeah, I would say sit in a storage unit and box all the games yourself. That's super fun. So do that. that's a great one.
Yeah. Yep. What about I'm conscious of time, so we'll do. Tell me very quickly. Tell me a horror story. One horror story that you guys have had. Is there anything that springs?
I just said mine.
Like. I would say,
Packing games was initially what we thought was going to be a great idea, and it turned out to be insanity. QAing every piece, packing the games, sending out shipments ourselves. Find a good fulfillment company, get everything assembled wherever it's getting produced, if you can. Just find solid fulfillment company.
You were actually putting the components in the boxes as well as sending them out?
Yeah. So
wow.
Yeah. So we got the components from our manufacturer. We opened up every single box for the first shipment. It was 1,300 games. We opened up every single box. And before we did that, though, we sorted 52 pieces into 4 different bags of this size, and then put those 4 bags into every box along with the add-ons needed. We spent hours upon hours upon hours in a storage unit with single lights, just in an assembly line basically, and it sucked. So don't do that.
That's what assembly factories do, right? Like that's That is what.
Yeah.
That's
But we wanted to make the metal in the States, which we still do, but we now pay people to pack it. But we wanted to make the metal in the States and have the game shipped over from China. And as a new company, we didn't have the money to pay somebody to pack it. So we said, we'll bite that bullet. And, before you bite a bullet, talk to people in the industry. So you know what bullet you're biting.
Know what bullet you're biting should go on a t-shirt.
Yeah. Come ask me if the bullet you're biting is worth biting.
Well, I think I've been pretty public with my horror story. That another game designer, who will remain nameless, who's not in this conversation, recommended I take pre-orders using PayPal for the refast, and then we would ship when the reprint came out. And there's rules about that, apparently, that we found out the hard way, because they locked my PayPal money into the account so that they could handle chargebacks without having to actually go to me for the money. And that hurt quite a bit. We had about $60,000 get locked up that way, which for us at the time was about the cost of a print run. And so now, we were sitting there without money, sweating bullets about how we were gonna get from point A to point B. We ended up kind of borrowing some from my family, and then using using that to have the confidence to launch the second Kickstarter, just to do the second print run. I just got that money back a month ago, I think.
Oh wow!
Finally, yeah. So they let us run refunds against it, at least. So when the Kickstarter started, we encouraged people. We refunded about $15,000, which was long, because basically I just had to log into PayPal and say, okay, this person needs a refund, and click through all the prompts for that for each person. And so that we got about $15,000 back that way, who then turned around and kickstarted back the Kickstarter, which helped pump up the first day. And that was pretty exciting for people to see. So, but yeah, we just recently finally got that money back out of PayPal. So, yay!
Yeah, that's not ideal.
No. We also had a little bit of a horror story with the miniatures, which were designed late. Went to China, and when they went to China, for whatever reason, the customs opened the box, and then sent us this letter saying they destroyed them in the process of opening the box, which was exciting to hear after months of waiting for them to be developed. And they were the originals, because it was Chad Horvater worked with the sculpture. He actually carved plasticine. And it turned out I think they were just shaking us down for a bribe. We ended up paying a tax on original items which have no value, and it was ridiculous. But wow. It got through. Now they're at the manufacturer. So
we had the one that I always revert to is so very late on in our development process. So we had all of our molds made, all the big metal molds, and they'd started to over in China, they'd started to produce all of the pieces, and they're quite complex. So all of them has two pieces. They have a little chip inside. They're ultrasonically welded together, which is a super cool process. If anyone has, really cool. It's amazing. If anyone has a car key, if you look at the two halves of the car key, they're not glued together. They've been put together and then vibrated really quickly, or a fraction of a second. Not yours. And yeah, there you go. That one's been ultrasonic welded. John's one there. Hold it up to the camera. There you go.
Hold on.
We're gonna do a little segue into manufacturing techniques. So anyway, so these processes all go ahead. There we go. Subaru, huh? Very nice.
Sorry, my BMW key's in the other room. So. Making that tabletop money.
Right. So all these pieces were being made, and then I went over there to visit the factory, and I sat there and tried to play the game. And the thing about a dexterity game is you have to be able to stack the pieces, otherwise it's not a very good dexterity game. And the thing was that all of the pieces the surfaces were too slick, because so when you look at a plastic piece for a tabletop game, it's usually got a texture on it. And the textures that we had weren't sticky enough. So all of a sudden, we had to become instant master's in something called frictional coefficient, which is a wonderful piece of physics that I heartily recommend everyone goes and researches into. And it ended up, so we had all of these pieces, these thousands of pieces coming off the line, ready to go into boxes. And they were too slippery. So whilst in China, we had to figure out a new manufacturing process, which was a rubberized spray that gets coated on certain pieces. And that's a whole process. So they spray it on, then it goes into an oven where it's baked. And we had to figure out how to do that with the electronic components aside without frying the electronic components, and all of these different processes that we had to figure out on the fly in order to get these pieces done in time that they were going to go in. And so the long shot is that the good thing is that these pieces now, they're super nice. All of the coating is like really beautiful, very tactile, and the difficulty level is absolutely perfect. But it was definitely a kind of thing to find out on the fly, and not a thing you want to do in a foreign country where half the people there don't speak the language, and you're on a tight deadline. So that was the one thing that happened with us, actually. Yeah, not good, but it worked out okay in the end. Cool. All right, one last thing, then I'm going to let you guys go.
Oh wait, we got Chris. We need Chris to give a horror story. Come on, man. You're not getting out of this.
Give us a good one.
So, well, my biggest, longest horror story I'm currently living right now, so we're not going to get into that. But it's not going to be a good story until there's an end to it, and so yeah. Next time we do this, I'll tell that one. But
yeah, it's Chris having to talk to us.
Yeah, right. So my most interesting horror story is probably from 2013 when we had, it was our first time that we'd ever shipped a Kickstarter late. We had a bunch of product that was on time. It was actually slightly ahead of schedule. We were in good shape. And it was all packed up in China and put on a boat, and that boat started making its way across the ocean. We're like, oh, this is gonna be great. It's gonna get to the coast. We know how to estimate these times. It'll get on a train. It'll come to us. We'll send it out. We're gonna get it to people like a week earlier than the deadline. So not like early, but like perfect scheduling. And it gets halfway across the ocean, and a giant typhoon springs up out of essentially nowhere, and the boat turns around and goes back to the port and has to wait. It has to take a week-long journey to go back to the port, and has to wait in port for another week before it can launch again.
Yeah.
And and at this point, we're telling our Kickstarter backers before this, like, hey, everything is great, everything is going ahead of schedule, everything's gonna be perfect, you're gonna have the game. And they're like, so, there's a thing that happened, and here's the weather reports, and here's the boat reports, and here's information about it.
Yeah. You can't.
And we have no way. And there's a bunch of people like, well, we want it now.
Meredith, you were fine.
We also want it now, but there's nothing that we can do about that.
Yeah.
Literally nothing.
Yeah,
so typhoon, sorry. Nothing we can do.
Hey, at least the ship didn't try and go through the typhoon, because that would have been a different story entirely, right? So,
yes, that is true. Yeah, no, we had a train derail once when the train was bringing us the product. We had a train derail, and the cargo containers all fall off the train, right. And we needed the product for Gen Con. This was the product it wasn't for a Kickstarter backers or anything. It was just product was coming in, but we needed that product for Gen Con, and as a result, they're like, oh yeah, no, we can pick it up off the train, and we can figure all that stuff out, and it'll still get to you. It'll just be a month later. We're like, no, that doesn't work. So we found this truck driver who was willing to drive overnight, which is not a thing truck drivers are supposed to do, to go from St. Louis to where the train had derailed, pick the cargo container up, put it on the back of this truck, and drive it back to us, and so that we'd have it in time for Gen Con. And we're like, yes, here's a giant pile of money. Go do that thing.
So did Baron Blade derail the train, or?
I assume so. It had to be.
Okay.
That was the Shattered Timelines, the second round of Shattered Timelines that happened, which is one of the later expansions of Sentinels of the Multiverse. But yeah, so the production and all that, there's lots of exciting, fun things.
Nice. Okay, one last.
Yeah, so somebody in the chat says it's cursed. Look, that's 2 major shipping accidents in 7 years of game production. I'm good with that rate. That's pretty good.
Famous last words.
Right.
Okay, last thing, very quickly, and I'll let you guys go. I want to know. I want you to recommend me the best game that you've played recently in any format. Can be video, can be tabletop. Give me some good things to play.
Cam, I don't play many games.
What?
I'm a game designer. I don't have time for
I
that.
don't, I don't agree with them. Wasted
Right?
time.
No, I hate games.
So I'll tell you one. So like,
I've been waiting for The Long Dark to release its campaign, which is a video game. They did 18 months of a soft launch with the sandbox mode, which was spectacular, and the campaign just shipped. So that's my recommendation.
yeah, did you hear that they're making a film out of that as well? I think that was elite.
Yeah.
Last week. Very exciting.
I've marked up that treaty several times for the board game rights, but
Ooh.
to no avail. Yeah,
Ooh, that would make sense. That would make a lot of sense for that to exist. Oh.
that's what I thought too.
Oh, yeah. So mine, while you guys are thinking, because as I said, I'm only getting home and playing very slow paced games at the moment. So I'm going to recommend a game called The Sexy Brutale. I'm playing it on PS4. It's like a kind of top-down isometric puzzler, but it's got a really cool thing because it's got like a Groundhog Day mechanic. So you're trying to stop murders and you get a certain amount of time to do it, and it's just beautiful. It's really well executed. It's got some fantastic UI design in there as well, so that's something that you all should definitely check out. You guys have anything?
Yes.
I mean, I know one game that I'm going to be getting soon is Illimat by Keith Baker, and I'm psyched on that. That game it's so abstract and so awesome.
That's the one that made with the Decemberist, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks
Have you
good.
played it,
Yeah.
John?
We had on International Tabletop Day, they sent us a few demo copies, so we were running demos of it,
Cool.
and it's just a blast. I mean, it's just very well made and feels good. So I would say Illimat for sure.
Nice.
I'm looking forward to Near and Far. I just got it. I cracked the rule book finally, but I'm excited to give that a try.
All right, one from you, Christopher. It's got to be something.
Yeah, so my recommendation is a game that nobody can buy or play, but maybe someday in the future they'll be able to. There was a game that was on Kickstarter about a month ago that then the Kickstarter failed, but I got to play it a month or two before that, which is from John Wick Presents, that does like the 7th role-playing games. They did a game called War of the Cross, which is a diplomacy-style game that I got to play a prototype of, and is just fantastic, and I love it, and I was really excited about that game, and I was really excited to like put it out to everybody and talk to everybody about it like I do with Beast of Balance and other games. And then they launched it on Kickstarter and asked for $150,000, and that ask was too high of an ask, and the campaign ended up being canceled. But they're going to relaunch again sometime in the future, and I'm excited because it's a really good game, and you should play it someday in the future when it's maybe available in a year or two.
Okay. All right.
Nice.
So let's wind this up.
And obviously one other game that Tim loves, that Tim has discovered, that I think Patrick, you played it too. Diet and Friends.
Oh, there it is. Diet and Friends.
It's I thought our buddy Luke discovered it, and he just never told me that he didn't discover it. So I'm just gonna say that's a lie of omission.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that Tim is the not founder. I mean, he didn't make the game, but he just found it in the depths of Essen one year.
Yeah. So we did a Kickstarter newsletter over the weekend, I think, one of their happening newsletters, and I put Diet and Friends down as just a game that more people should play, because like I'm determined to get as many people to play that game as possible, just because it's fun. It's fun. It's very lighthearted. It's really super beautifully written, and it's just a lovely thing to carry around with you, mainly because they stipulate in the rules that when you're interacting with other people, you must be polite in every interaction. And I think there should be more games where you are forced into politeness, to make us all better people. So yeah, that's a good one. I'm glad you mentioned that.
And what's the name of that game again?
It's called Diet and Friends. I think Dylan might have just linked it on the.
No, Dylan linked War of the Cross. Diet and Friends. There we go. Okay.
I don't know where you'd be able to get it from. It's a very small Japanese card game. I hope there'll be at Essen again, because I'd like to just go and talk to him.
I'm just gonna buy a case, man. I'm just gonna buy a case and just distribute it in America like a board game Johnny Appleseed.
Yeah. Like, I'm kicking myself because the guy had maybe 6 or 7 games, and I bought 2, but there were a lot more. So
Oh, dude, we'll play them. We'll play them this year.
Looking forward to that.
Again, let's all do South by Southwest again, and we'll be bored, and we'll have time to play.
It's another horror story that we
won't
won't talk about right
I'm
now.
going to wrap this up because I've been.
Three of the four of us did South by Southwest this year.
Oh god, yeah, South by Southwest. What was the name of the abstract game? What was the name of the abstract game? Oh, Illimat? Probably Illimat.
Illimat.
Yeah.
Illimat.
Sweet.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
Marguerite's got it.
I'm going to wrap this up because I've been busting for the toilet for about the last 15 minutes. So things are going to change. This live stream is going to take a drastically different course if I don't go see. Guys, thank you very much for doing this. It's been a blast. Actually, it's been fun, and I think more Kickstarters should feature this kind of thing because there's a really nice community of people who are doing all loads of different kind of games, and they all just want to talk about stuff. So let's see if we can get more people to do these kind of things.
Well, we're launching soon, so you can come and do mine if you want.
Definitely. Cool.
All
right. So you guys are going to be at Gen Con, I think, and I'm very jealous that you're all going to be there. So I hope you have a good time.
John and I are one trip because we're boozer right next to each other.
Hey.
So if you're thinking, oh, I only want to visit one of them, I don't want to walk all that way, you can get two of them in the same trip. So we are in row 30. So
What's everybody's booth number at Gen Con?
3035.
What's everybody's booth
What's
number
that?
at Gen Con?
3037.
3035.
My booth number is 000. So.
Oh, you get the best booth.
But I will. I mean, are you guys going to be at PAX Unplugged? Because that's the next thing that we're going stateside for.
Yep.
You are?
I'll be there.
Fantastic. All right, we'll hang out there and play Diet and Friends. Brilliant.
Well, let's each run through like what we have upcoming. I think.
Go for it. You guys, John, you want to go first?
No, Chris, you go first.
So coming up right now, the thing that just came out, we just had two games come out called Spirit Island, which we were talked about earlier. It is a cooperative, very strategic, in-depth, high strategy. Oh my god, it's so cool. Anyway, it's a very cool game. You should check out Spirit Island. We also had another game come out that is equally flashy, but in a very different way, called Laser Riders, which is a fast-paced racing game that is really cool. So definitely check that out. So we'll have both of those at Gen Con. The next thing that's coming out from me personally will be the Oblivion expansion to Sentinels and Multiverse. But then also we have the Sentinel Comics RPG that I mentioned earlier that is a tabletop role-playing game based on the world and thematics of Sentinel Comics, which is the fictional comics behind the Sentinels and Multiverse games. So lots of things there. And we'll have a Kickstarter. The next Kickstarter that we're doing is later this year, and that is The Legends of Sleepy Hollow, which is from some great designers, and lots of stuff about that we'll be talking about at Gen Con and in the future. So, but that's not coming out until this fall. That's not going to be on Kickstarter until like October.
Cool.
Just a few things then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and Fate of the Elder Gods. Somebody in the chat, Dylan mentions, we also had Fate of the Elder Gods just come out, and also Exoplanets. Exoplanets is a game that we imported and is now available in States through Greater Than Games, and Fate of the Elder Gods is a super cool thematic game in which it's another Cthulhu game, but you're playing as the cultists trying to raise your Elder God so that you can destroy everybody else first, and so it's a fun and different thing.
Nice.
Oh, and then I didn't mention our Gen Con booth. Our booth at Gen Con is booth 1343, but we also have one of those cool demo rooms off the side, and that is room 134.
Neat.
Okay, Patrick?
Yeah, so we're trundling along on Deep Enemy Frontier, which is our asymmetric take on 4X space strategy. So one player's playing the Empire, one player is the captain exploring space, one player is the usurper trying to overthrow the Empire, and another player is the rival invading them all, like an alien rival invading them all. So we're working on that. We're pushing for that. We'll see where it's at Gen Con. We might use that as the runway to go into the Kickstarter. We haven't got too serious about timeline for that. Once the add-ons ship for Vast, which are going to the printer right now, so we'll ship them sometime around October. We'll probably start looking into doing the Vast 2 Kickstarter, Vast the Mysterious Manor, which is coming along. The design is coming along. I'm actually working on Bass 3 when I'm playtesting. So if that tells you how far along Bass 2 is. So we'll get started on that. Maybe in November. I'm not real fond of. I mean, November worked for us because we had to make it work. But obviously, starting Kickstarter in November means you're ending in December. So we got to be careful about that. But we might start it around that time too. So. And then John Gilmore and I are just about to sign something, but there's a license in play that I can't talk about. But we're working on like a 10-minute dexterity game that'll use an iPad app. So if you know anything about that, so we're getting really close to that.
You tease, John.
Let's see. Let me think real quick while Tim has to go to the bathroom.
David Somerville said let's do our 20 design tips.
All right, so I'll try to go quick. Gen Con booth 3035. We also have panels at Gen Con. We have a panel about being an artist in the game industry, playtesting, about tabletop design, making fancy dumb stuff, and randomness. We're also running a bunch of events for the expansion, so if you want to play the expansion at Gen Con, sign up, look at our latest Kickstarter update. We have a couple panels at PAX West, and some other fun stuff happening at PAX West we can't talk about. We'll also be at Essen, we'll be at PAX Unplugged, and we probably have our Kickstarter launching October, November, and production for Dragoon is still rolling, but until then we will be selling the gold edition of Dragoon at the events that we are at.
And for us, so 4 more days of this Kickstarter, then we start to actually make it. We're also doing something super cool, which is we're working with. We're actually in the middle right now of working on a prototype game for Alexa, for Amazon's Alexa thing. So specifically trying to figure out if we can do our thing. So bringing some physicality to it, to make a kind of face-to-face game that uses Alexa as a component, but also uses some other physical stuff. So at the moment, Alex Fleetwood, who's our kind of CEO of the company, he's actually in Seattle with Amazon, with Alexa, working on that, which is pretty cool. So at the moment, it's just a prototype, but who knows? That may be the second game. Otherwise, we're going to be at Essen as well, and we're also going to be at PAX Unplugged, both of which I'm very excited about. So yeah, I'll see you 3 there at one or both, or either or none. And hopefully, hopefully we can all hang out, play some games.
You can borrow Kyle Farron for your booth again.
Yes. Awesome. Although after his trolling earlier on in the chat window, I'm not sure I want him anymore. So.
Oh yeah.
Kyle Farron, the Swiss Army knife of the tabletop industry.
And really, the best hugger in the tabletop industry.
He's a teddy bear. He's a teddy bear.
We love you, Kyle. All right, I'm going to wrap this up, or otherwise bad things are going to happen. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Thank you all for tuning in. Very, very happy to have so many questions and everything. And I'll see you on the flip side.
All right, take care.
Otherwise.